You can either take the red pill, you'll wake up, everything was a dream, or you can take the black pill, you can get torched.
Well, I suppose getting torched won't hurt that much. I don't feel anything.
Wait for it.
Oh, wait. I just got a new client. Get torched! Get torched! Get torched!
I'm Wayne Carey, and this is The Truth Hurts.
Well, we're back for another episode of The Truth Hurts. Duck, it is great to be fresh. I feel like we've reversed roles a bit this week, though. How are you going?
Well, no, I'm good. I'm a little. I don't get hangovers, which is a little bit of a concern. And people, generally, if you do, it puts you off. The fact that I don't doesn't put me off. But I had a great weekend away, and we always talk about what we got up to. I went down to Port Fairy. Do you know where Port Fairy is?
No, tell me.
Well, it's just past Warrnambool, right? Beautiful little town. A few of my mates, all got brought up there. They, country
Port Fairy
boys.
or Port Fairy?
What?
Can you say that properly?
Well, I can't even say your name properly.
Port Fairy?
Port Fairy.
Not Port Ferry.
Okay, Port Fairy.
I know where Port Fairy is.
So went down
there.
I'll tell you what I did. So a mate of mine, Johnny Mack, and his dad Mick, they took my dog. So we had a Kelpie, right? And obviously the city didn't have enough time, so we thought, it's a bit cruel to the dog. So we put him down on the farm. So we went to visit Frank down on the farm. Yes. Now, it'd be fair to say Frank's not although he's a sheepdog, he's never rounded up sheep. So he's learning off the other Kelpies. Now, Mick's got about 30 dogs out there and about 8 cats and, the cows and sheep and that everywhere. And whenever I go into a setting, and you won't be surprised by this, I just go into, it's like a role. I thought I was Rip off Yellowstone, right?
I couldn't imagine you doing anything sort of hands-on farming.
Well, it's very good. I'm scared of horses, for starters. So when I say scared, I just, I'm not a massive...
You keep your distance.
I keep my distance. And anyway, they had bloody wild brumbies and everything out there. They're running everywhere. So I was just, I was on the quad bike. I had Carter on the quad bike, and I can ride a bike. So I had a bit of fun with that. But we had to catch this horse, right? So everyone's there, trying to, like I said, all think they're off Yellowstone, and I'm just sort of hanging back, not getting involved. And invariably, I played a big role in actually catching the horse.
Of course you did. Yep.
I did. Anyway, we saw Frank. Frank, a little bit on the skinny side, probably because he's running so much, and he's not the alpha dog. But had an amazing. Just spent the whole day. Well, not the whole day, but pretty much the day, and then saw a tiger snake on the road. Actually, a fox ran under the car. Saw a koala on the side of the road. By the way, I think the fox is in a little bit of trouble, but the koala was fine, and the snake went back into the bushes, so no one was hurt. But
Ducks Outback Adventures.
But we saw all these different animals, and as you can imagine, Carter he was like a kid in a candy store. Had an absolute ball. It was one of the best days. So thank you to Mick for looking after.
So Frank's going okay. Just that was the bit that
he's going okay. When you're on the farm, he probably doesn't get the cuddles and that he got when he was with us. But he gets to run around. He's got a lot
of mates out there.
He's got a bit of space to run around. Anyway, in town, Port Fairy, what a beautiful place it is. Because I've been there a few times, but I've generally just seen the inside of the bar.
Yeah. Great place in the summertime.
So this time, all the accommodation, right? That's where we stayed. I'm not doing this to get free accommodation for those that think
Sounds like it.
No, but Tim Aldy is down there. He's a journalist in actual fact, and you walk in and he's got all these celebrities up. So you got Tony Shaw, and there's Dougie Hawkins, and Angus Brayshaw. He's just got all Damien Oliver, like lots. Be fair to say mine's going to be front and centre now because he got a picture of me. But we stayed there. It was a beautiful spot right on the beach.
So you're up on the wall now, you're saying.
I'll be up on the wall.
That actually
before you know.
I
So I want to say thank you to Tim though, because and once again he was very look. Never known an owner of a venue that came in. So we watched both games, both finals there on Friday night and Saturday afternoon. Invited half the town came, and Tim he just rolls up. He rolled up. Carter needed some batteries for this little mask thing that he bought. He went and bought him some batteries. He came in. He was cleaning up after everyone because we're obviously having a few quieties watching the footy, and he actually came in, was cleaning up. Like how many owners do that? So thank you very much to Tim down there.
Your story about having blokes on the wall reminds me of this little Greek place up in Collingwood that we went to one night as a sports team. Tony Jones he was not shouting. He was leading the charge though, and this guy was quite excited about Tony being in there. And he came over and said, "You got to see." I won't put in the accent. You got to see the other celebrities or people who've come in. And we thought it must have been legit because at the time Leighton Hewitt was actually in the front of the restaurant. But he said, "Oh, Dermot Brereton, he's been here." And so he whips out this photo that he's had up on his wall of this older looking blonde guy. Wasn't Dermot? Yes, it's Dermot. Dermot.
Oh, really? It wasn't Dermot.
Wasn't Dermot. He went and put it back on the wall and thought, "Mate, you."
But the amount of times that I've gone into a place or a venue and they've got a jumper up on the wall and it's not signed by me.
But it says personally signed.
Yeah, personally signed. It's not my signature. And you don't want to say, "Oh, sorry, mate, but I definitely didn't sign that jumper."
So people are forging that stuff.
Well, it does. It happens. It happens a lot. What a weekend, by the way. What did you think of the finals?
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit disappointed that GWS didn't beat Collingwood because now all those Collingwood fans I gave a slap to last week have been in my ear. So
I've got it wrong. So I was wrong again. So I predicted a GWS Brisbane grand final. So
Collingwood, half right.
Collingwood fans should love me. And because every time I tip against them,
you've written them off.
Every time I tip against them, they win. So they should absolutely. And credit to Collingwood. They've done it again. They've won another game by a close margin. As harsh as it, and you feel really, really sorry for GWS. I mean, what a season they had. They were out for all money, and then to get themselves to that position and just miss out on a grand final, huge effort by them. But I just want to talk about that game quickly because the umpiring in the last 10 minutes was pathetic.
So there's this perception that the umpires put the whistle away in finals.
Well, they do. But if the free kick's there, it's there. And I'm not talking about the head high. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about dragging the ball in. Now, Collingwood are clearly trying to, to protect the game. They're milking the clock. 1 point up, right? So they're diving on the ball and they're dragging it in, and there was not one free kick paid for that. That to me, that's poor umpiring. It really is. So I was really disappointed in that, and I can't believe how much I actually got into that game. I was really.
It was a tense game, that game, absolutely.
And that third term, I reckon they were one goal away from maybe breaking Collingwood's back in that third term if they just got one more, and because they dominated that period of the game, and then Collingwood got that one back, and then all of a sudden Collingwood had their little run on. So you've got to give them credit. It was ripping, but like I said, I was disappointed in the end only because of the umpiring, and I thought it was, I didn't think it was great. But
it's interesting on the umpiring because often we say in finals the umpiring can be better when they don't pay the Ticky Touchwood free kicks.
I'm happy for them not to pay Ticky Touchwood free kicks, but if it's there, it's there.
Yep.
You can't not pay it.
Fair bit to dissect from the games. There was some moments in the games. You spoke about the umpiring and some of the tackling. So you're okay with the Toby Green, Nick Daicos.
No, that should have been a free kick.
Okay, fair. Nick Daicos' tackle was an interesting one. So it was a little postscript, and I thought Adam Kingsley wanted to make a point of it in his post-match because he said he was frustrated that Daicos has tackled Brent Daniels, who's hit his head on the ground. The AFL ARC has said you've got to take him off and do a concussion test. And so he hasn't been able to play the last 5 minutes of the game. Daicos has got off. Did you think there was anything in that, or
you wouldn't want to see him
miss the grand final? Do you reckon if it was earlier in the year, it would have been a problem?
It might have been quick. Once again, where we're discussing what we already know, and that's the inconsistencies in the AFL and how they go.
Okay, so
about
not a
the
big
leagues.
issue then. Righto. So rotations. Jordan DeGoey's off the ground for the last 8 minutes of the game. The bigger one for me was, so not a big name, but Kieran Briggs, GWS ruckman, was not there in the last 5 minutes. Lockie Keefe was having to ruck, and when you got ball up after ball up,
Yeah.
like should clubs be more? I understand the ball's on the other side, and I always think when a player knows it's their rotation, they often will try and send the play on the other side. Obviously not happening in a prelim, but should clubs be more conservative with taking players off in those final minutes? Is there a way around it or not really? Is it just luck of the draw?
Oh, well, at the end, we all talk about the sports science of it, and when it's your turn to come off and guys come off after a goal. You've also got to have a bit of a feel for the game, and there's always exceptions to the rule. Like if you're a forward and it's your turn and it's set in stone that, okay, if it's at this stage and you kick a goal, you come off. If you haven't had a kick and you've just got a mark and then you've just kicked a goal and there's only 2 minutes to go before 3/4 time, why are you coming off?
Yeah.
I mean that to me is just, I don't understand why that happens, because you can often, you've just kicked one, you can kick one straight away. Your confidence is up. The defender's a little bit edgy because you've just put one through the big stick. So that to me is always, it's just not having a feel for the game. So you're right. And would have that made a difference? Probably. But as you said, DeGoey got caught off the ground. He had an amazing final, by the way. Jordan DeGoey. They just couldn't, as good as GWS were with their defence and their pressure, no one could tackle Jordan DeGoey. He's just a bull. He had an unbelievable game.
6-day break for the Giants going into the game versus the following night. It was Carlton who had an 8-day break. So the AFL could have switched those games, but they wanted to give Collingwood the longer run into the grand final. Did it make any difference, do you think? I mean, the Giants did look a bit tired in the last quarter, but do you think that was just a product of a taxing final?
Product of the game.
Yep.
The game was hard fought all the way through. Very defensive game. Pressure was at a very, very high level. So does it make a difference? No.
So does that day, when they talk about a 6-day break,
it's a 1 point game.
Yeah.
Right. So if you win by a point, you're lucky. If you lose by a point, you're unlucky.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So I don't think you can look at, just because they had one less day.
Fair. So on the Saturday, it was Carlton against Brisbane. Blues kicked the first 5 and you're thinking, oh no, it's going to be Carlton Collingwood grand final. They just blew them away early, didn't they? But once Brisbane settled, Carlton got overpowered a bit in the midfield, didn't they? And I guess that's been the concern for them at times. If Paddy Cripps is not having an influence, they maybe can't stem the tide in there, even though Sam Walsh, he's had a great final series.
I don't think anyone watching that game wouldn't have been, you'd be concerned at quarter time if you were Brisbane, but I did think that they had the capabilities and the firepower to come back. And it's a matter of, it's just a matter of chipping away, and that's exactly what they did. They got the first goal, and then obviously Carlton went basically 2 quarters with kicking 1 goal after their 5-goal start. So, great effort by Brisbane. I think invariably they've been, along with Collingwood, they've been the 2 best teams. So they deserve to get through. Carlton, an amazing effort to do what they did. In the end, probably, a couple of their key. We know that Mackay hasn't been anywhere near his best.
What did you think of his game?
From what did I think?
Yeah.
Just okay.
Yep.
And obviously Curnow, I think Jason Dunstall might have said that Curnow, he was a little bit disappointed in how Curnow went during the final series. What it does show you is when you are a guy like Curnow, and we'll talk about the grand final soon, but when you're a guy like Curnow, he knows going into that game that if he plays really well, they win, and if he doesn't perform, then the chances are they probably lose. So
did you see any differences in the way Charlie was playing? Did he look sore, or was it just that better finals are tighter?
Brisbane have got it very good. They're a bloody good defence.
Yeah.
And they work really, really well together. So the focus and the pressure just goes up a little, and he'll learn from the finals that he's played this year, just like all of those Carlton players, remembering a lot of them have never played finals before.
Yeah. Well, that was my next question because, Carlton have got the taste now, and often there's a thought that clubs need to have a taste before they can really elevate to be a premiership team.
Yep.
Where does the improvement come from for Carlton, and do you think this does give them a platform for next year?
Without doubt. So all of a sudden they've reached their expectation. I've actually said it for the last few years, even though, they got off to a bad start this year and we thought they probably couldn't get there. But we've had the expectation that this is where we think this list should be. So now, with that confidence and what they've done in the second half of the year, you take that through your pre-season and they come back bigger and better next year. So for me, Carlton would be one of the, they will play the grand final, but if you're looking at the Blues, you're saying they're one of the premiership fancies next year, in my mind. So just through natural improvement and having a taste of the finals this year. I think they go into a pre-season feeling really, really good about themselves, and as they should.
When we talk about a taste of finals, what is part of that? Is it the dealing with the pressure of the week? Is it dealing with the higher intensity, or is it what did you find the hardest, say, of going into finals or the transition into finals from home and away?
I think it's all of the above. It's just the extra attention. You all of a sudden you're going out of training and you've got a massive crowd there. So it's just getting used to all those, I guess all those different circumstances that you don't get during the home and away. Not so much on game. Once the ball's bounced, in my opinion, it's like any other game. So it's the lead up and then the mental preparation to the game that is the big difference.
So someone like focusing on the grand final now away from Carlton, but for someone like Darcy Moore this week, I mean, it's a huge week already. He's had media commitments, with his dad and the Daicos brothers. That's step number one. There's going to be huge crowds at training. There's the grand final parade. How do you deal with that and make sure you're not spending too much, mental energy? Because he's a captain of the biggest club in the land, and you've been through, that when you've got expectation going to a grand final.
Yeah, I think you've got to enjoy it and not. Well, clearly you don't want to think too far ahead. So you each session. Deal with that on its merits. So you go to training tonight, you turn up there, you're fired up, the sun's out, the crowd's there. So you've got a real spring in your step. If you haven't, all those niggly injuries are they just disappear. All the soreness disappears. You've got that much adrenaline going through your body. So there is a difference in a lot of ways. So mentally and physically, for whatever reason, you've just got this real energy, and you go to training, you enjoy that session, and you get home and you certainly don't want to be thinking about the game. So enjoy each step as the week goes on. All of the interviews, and clearly that's changed. So the captain probably does the majority of it. And what McRae and others at the footy club and Lepper and these guys would know is there's certain guys that can handle the extra attention, and then there's those that clearly if they're an overthinker, then you don't want them doing interviews, or if they're asked to do interviews, you're probably saying to them no, because that they probably can't handle it. But I would think in Darcy Moore's case, he'll handle it. He's a very level-headed young man and done a great job as captain of that footy club. But then you get to the parade, and once again, that's all new. And I remember when we first made the grand final, that's one of the things I always wanted to be in, go to the parade. And then you're sitting there in the car and you got dingbats throwing streamers at your head, right? And you're sort of going, oh, and they're literally, the crowd's right there. So it's a little bit daunting. And, you got some dingbat calling you a flog and this and that. And, so people are cheering for you. Other people are abusing you. People are throwing stuff. So then I worked out in I think it was 99. The two, Mark Dawson's two boys, Kane and Sam, I sat them next to me. So I thought, they won't throw stuff at me if I've got two little kids.
And did they, or did they back up?
I got, they were my protection. I put them, but enjoy enjoy all of that. And then there's the little mind games that when you stand up, and as the captain, you stand up in front of everyone. Although this year, are they on the river again this year?
No, they've gone back to a more traditional. It's a different route, but it's we're not. I don't think they're doing the boats again, as far as I'm aware. I think they're going over the bridge into Melbourne Park.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when you right at the end where they do that last shot where you
hold the cup.
You hold the cup.
Yeah.
I remember when I did that with Paul Kelly, fellow Wagga boy, and I just made sure I just held the cup
a little bit longer.
So there's a,
Do you reckon he noticed, or?
Oh, no. Keller's pretty laid back, but I don't know. But they're just the little, and I did that with Mark Bickley as well, and we got beat.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you just hold it just for that little bit. Try to do mind games.
Before we leave that topic, the last part of that I'm interested in is the final 24 hours leading into the game. So Friday night, are you shutting yourself off from people, family, friends, or are you preferring to have people over? Are you sitting at home? Are you watching a movie? What are you doing?
Yeah, probably watching a movie, relaxing, not doing anything that you wouldn't normally do. So if you normally have people over or don't care if family or whatever come over and sit down and watch a movie with you or whatever it might be, then you keep it normal. You don't change anything just because it's a grand final. So the key, I think the biggest thing, and for me, and I've never really spoken about it a lot, and that is there are some players that will be going into this grand final that understand that if they know that if they play a poor game, then maybe they lose the grand final. And I'm talking about guys like Joe Daniher, as laid back as he is, and I love him. And by the way, he's been very good. But he would have a pressure on him that not too many other players, I think, in the grand final. I think, if you look at Collingwood, I don't think there's anyone in their team that, we're going in thinking, if I play poorly, we lose. Whereas on the flip side, I think Brisbane sort of do have a couple of those. I think, Joe has a big game. I think Brisbane win. And I don't look at Collingwood. I think they don't have a reliance on one
perhaps more
individual.
Yep.
Yeah. So for me, it's there's I think there is a little bit of pressure on someone like Joe Daniher. First grand final. And I'm not trying to put pressure on him, but I think he would be feeling it. Charlie Cameron, I think, would be, understanding that, he needs to have a really big final. And if they do, then for me, they've just got way more firepower than what Collingwood have. And with all due respect, Elliott's a star. Obviously Cox will play forward. They're going to have to make a change now. McStay.
Yeah. So what do they do there? So it seems like there's a few options for Collingwood in terms of replacing Dan McStay. He's out for 6 to 8 with his knee injury. So obviously that no grand final, and it seems like he knew that before the final siren. From a key position perspective, Billy Frampton has been a player who's played sort of both ends, a bit of ruck. At times he could maybe go back. Howe comes forward. Then you've got Taylor Adams pushing to return from his hamstring. He trained on Saturday, and Jack Ginnivan's been the sub, and he has provided a bit of a spark. Do you like him staying as a sub to provide that spark, or has he done enough to be in the 22? So which way do you go? Do you think?
Yeah, if Adams is fit, he comes in.
Yeah. So you're going key position for a running player or a smaller player.
Yeah, he definitely comes in, Adams, if he's fit.
Yeah.
So whether they go with Ginnivan again as the sub, he's a perfect sub in a lot of ways. He can have an impact in a short amount of time, come on fresh. So whether they do that again and just bring Adams in, so you're right, they were small for a tall. Going to be a warm day, they tell me. Yep.
Okay.
I think. And if it is a warm day, I think that suits Brisbane, clearly, given that they train in warmer weather. So, yeah, it's a good concern to have, isn't it? McStay, very unlucky against his old club, to miss a grand final. And he's had his problems.
You had a few, didn't you? You had a few guys miss grand finals.
Yeah. Jace McCartney missed in 99.
Yep. So suspension.
Rubbed out in a prelim. We had Ross Smith and Johnny Longmire missed out in 96. A horse because he hurt his knee, so he was those guys, devastating when guys, Matty Armstrong, who played most of the year, missed out. It is one of those weeks, and look at young Johnny Noble, who's missed out on the finals, and he played
every game.
Played every game. So there's a lot of heartbreak, but through heartbreak, someone, gets to live their dream.
It reignites that debate, which we seem to have. There's certain topics that come up every year at this time. I think you've had a view on this before, but I can't remember what it was. Premiership medals. Because my feeling is if you don't play on the day, you don't feel part of it. But does the squad deserve, is it a 25 or is it everyone who's played a game, or how would you do premiership?
Yeah, I think that if you've played a certain amount of games in that year, that you should get a premiership medal.
Yeah. Is it 5, 10?
No doubt. Yeah, well, okay, so put a figure on it. Let's say it's 10. If you've played 10 games and you've contributed a lot to that team for the year, and a team, 22 don't win you a premiership. It is the squad that invariably gets you to the grand final, and it's a team that wins on that day. Yeah? So a squad gets you there and a team wins on the day. What I will say about getting a medal, let's say you put a cap on it, you played 10 more games, you get a medal.
Would you want it?
That's the key. There would be some players that would say, yep, I accept it and feel very proud that I contributed. And then there'd be other players that say, nah, I don't deserve it because I didn't play on the day. So there would be players that would love it, and there would be players that wouldn't. But I think they deserve one, irrespective of whether they want it or not. I've said that for a while now, and a lot of people disagree with me. They say if you don't play, you don't get it. But like a guy like Noble, who has got them there, and if he doesn't play, he deserves a medal.
I think I've said this before.
He won them games this year, Johnny Noble.
No, he was really solid. That was a surprise, but there was always going to be a selection squeeze when they got their guys back. I think I've said it before, and without relating, I know my local football career is a very different level to your to any AFL career, but I played every game and got dropped for a granny, and I wouldn't want a medal. I wouldn't want a medal if they won. They didn't win, so it didn't matter. But you wouldn't want a medal, I don't think.
Really?
You're not part of it.
Yeah, well, I think, like I said, there are players that would think the same way, but there would be other players that would sort of happily take a medal knowing that they contributed to the team getting there.
It wouldn't be sitting pride of place, I don't think, as much.
There would be some players that would
really,
yeah.
Okay, interesting. So the MCG factor is one that's going to be spoken about. Brisbane, I think, have won their past 6 against Collingwood, but none of those games have been at the G. They've been at the Gabba or Marvel. Brisbane hasn't won at the G for 5 or 6 years, but what I will say about that record is they've often come down here to play good teams. They played Richmond twice in their prime, Melbourne twice, Geelong, and they did lose a game they should have won earlier this year.
Against Melbourne.
Yeah. So does it mean anything? Or does it? I mean,
no. It's grand final day. I don't think any of the players, obviously people in the media will talk about it.
Yeah.
Or dingbats on a podcast. but it doesn't. No, I don't think it means anything. And in actual fact, that game that they played against Melbourne, they were 5 goals up with about 7 minutes to go, and Melbourne, unbelievably won that game. So I think they'd take a lot of confidence out of that performance on that day. But no, not even thinking about it at all. But it will be raised.
Yeah, already I've seen a lot of their players asked about it. But I guess that's what we do in the media, Wayne.
Boring topic.
Okay, well, I won't linger on it then. You spoke about tickets last week. Now, not so much sympathy for your tickets, but for the tickets for Collingwood fans this week has been a huge issue. Have you seen that in the last 24 hours? So Collingwood today, just a short time ago, put out a statement. They want the AFL to raise the allocation from $17,000 to $20,000 per club.
Fair enough.
There was a lot of people who paid more than $1,000 a year to have their top-level memberships who weren't getting even a seat. It seems very strange to me, the way the allocation works, that if you're in that top bracket, there are people in the lower brackets who are getting tickets before you. It's
yeah.
I mean, I know it's hard, but yeah.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's the same, once again, same topic, same result. We talk about it every year. I think it's a real shame that, if you're a member and you've been a member, for so many years, and then your team gets there and you can't get a ticket, I think it's a real shame. It is more of a corporate day than it is for the fans. And that's why we see, games on the weekend, 96,000 or whatever it was. And you had, they're your diehard fans. They're the ones that you want. They should be at the grand final. Every Collingwood supporter and every Brisbane supporter should be able to get to the grand final if you're a member. And I know that's, airy-fairy and it's never going to happen, but,
yeah,
you buy your membership for that reason, to support the club. And then obviously when you get to, they're hard to win. And when you get to these big games, you want to be able to go and support your team.
Before we move on from the grand final, just one final question. It's a matchup question. Josh Dunkley spent time on Patrick Cripps. Cripps, he looked sore. He had that big padding on his side, kept him with 13 touches. Do you put him on a DeGoey? I don't think anyone's really put any time to Geordie DeGoey this year, but after that performance last week, do you need to give him at least a bit of touch?
Well, there's a few players you'd want to put a little bit of touch. But DeGoey was unbelievable on the weekend, and
that's the choice you mentioned.
He's a perfect matchup.
Yeah,
I mean, or do you send someone to put a little bit of time into a Daicos? I mean, he's a class act, Daicos. It's his first grand final. He won't be overawed. For me, it's a fascinating game. I think that yes, you would want to put some time into DeGoey. You certainly don't want him to do what he did on the weekend, because if he does that, I think Collingwood probably win the game. So it's unfortunately, and we've seen Dusty Martin not be tagged in grand finals and not put time in it, and we saw what Richmond was able to do.
Yeah,
I don't think you want to make that mistake, or teams want to make that mistake, and I think DeGoey has that type of impact for his team. So I would be putting some time into him without question. I'm actually going to tip. I actually think Brisbane are going to win the Premiership. And the reason for that, I think their firepower. I think they have, their forward line. If they do fire, then I just think they win. I think they're stronger in the forward half of the ground than what Collingwood are. McStay being out obviously for Collingwood, albeit I think he played one of his better games on the weekend. I don't think he's a massive loss to Collingwood, but they need a guy like Myercheck. I tell you,
jeez, you lay into Brody Myercheck.
I don't lay into.
I hope he doesn't listen.
Because I'm a massive fan of Brody Myercheck. Right, came from Port Melbourne. He's an old-fashioned goer, does everything right, does the basics, really well, gives his all every week. But I would argue that if Collingwood do win the Premiership, with Brody Myercheck being their number one forward, I will throw this question out there. Would it be, has there ever been a weaker, what I mean by that, like without having like in 17 when Richmond won with Jack Riewoldt being their sole key forward, but Jack Riewolt's a Coleman medalist, gun kicked over 700. So Brody Myercheck being the number one forward, would it be the strangest key position forward to ever win a Premiership?
Well, I thought you were going to go in a different direction there, because the other week you were posing, is this going to be the worst flag winner in a little while? But you haven't been brave enough to say that on air.
I think the Brisbane Lions of 01, 2, 3 would beat both of these sides by
maybe
30 goals.
Maybe that 30 goals.
30 goals.
Funny you say that. I'm so annoyed with myself. I thought I took a screenshot. I've been madly looking for it on my phone because I wanted you to bring that up, because another one of your favourites, a different ratings guy off social media. I don't know who he is. I've got to do some more research on this.
Well,
he's rated each team and each grand finalist over the last 25 years based on some certain metrics, comparing them to other teams. And if you were going to say these were weak grand final teams, I laughed because the 90 he started in 99. The 99 North team was one of the lowest rated grand final teams. So I was waiting to pull that on you, but I don't have the screenshot, so I'm going to save it for next week.
And who was this Poindexter?
I'm annoyed. I had it here. I thought I was
99 was one of the weakest.
Yeah, that was and then Carlton was rated even lower. They were rated as nearly the worst grand finalist out of the whole 25 years. So, so you had an easy grand final opponent, and your side wasn't that good. That's what.
And Essendon who's basically had the same team in '99 and then won it in 2000.
They were the one.
Some people saying that's one of the best teams.
They were the highest rated, along with Geelong of 07 maybe.
Okay. And that team that's rated the highest didn't even get to the grand final the year before. So you know what Poindexter doesn't measure? You know what? They don't measure. They don't measure what's up in here, right? They don't measure how a desire or a want or courage. They don't measure any of that on the day. Do they?
I knew that it really pushed your butt.
So where did they rank the 2016?
I don't know. Look, I could look it up. This is really unprofessional. I was sure I had it on my phone, but
no. Well, I couldn't give a rat's what Poindexter thinks. We won the grand final, and by the way, Collingwood, or Brodie Mychek, if he's got a medallion hanging around his neck, he won't care like that. He's let's be honest. If in most other teams, he's your third forward, whereas at Collingwood, he's their number one forward. That's my point.
I understand.
Been an amazing effort for Collingwood to get, because if Collingwood had a key forward, a bigger key forward, then I just think, and a good one, right? I think they just win the grand final. It's their one thing that I'm sure that they would want on their shopping list come next year.
For what it's worth, even though you haven't asked me, I'm tipping Collingwood.
You're going to, by what, 2 points?
No, I actually think they're going to do it fairly comfortably. Collingwood are gettable. I'll accept that, but I don't trust Brisbane. While I think individually in their midfield there's some great individuals, I think collectively they can be overpowered in there, and I think Collingwood's going to win the game. And if Collingwood gets on a roll, I think they're going to be very hard to stop. Happy to be proven wrong next week.
Okay, well, so I'm going for. Well, I'm not going for Brisbane. I just think Brisbane will win the grand final. There you go. So that's
by how many points?
14.
Okay. Collingwood by 33, I'm going with.
All right, 14 points. And Norm Smith medal. You're going to...
Oh, geez, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, keep going. Yep.
Who's your Norm Smith?
You're putting me on the spot here. No, I'm going to reserve judgment there. Give me 5 minutes on that. Save that to the end of the show.
What about the Brownlow? You've got to have it. The Brownlow is on tonight.
I'd like Marcus Bontempelli to win, but has he done enough to really nick Daicos, do you think, or are there others? Are there other players?
I'm not a massive fan of the Brownlow anyway. You know that.
I didn't think you would be. Will you watch or?
Yeah, I watch. Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because I never won.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say why you watch. No, I know why you didn't. Why you're not a fan. I know it hurt. You don't like to say it. You do want one.
No, I don't. I'm glad I'm in the category with some others like Lee Matthews and Gary Ablett Senior.
With Lee's record, it is phenomenal as well, isn't it?
What about Jason Dunstall? Kicked 140 whatever goals and didn't win the Brownlow that year.
Did he poll at all in that year?
He came second.
Did he? Okay.
Behind Scott Wind.
Oh, Scott Wind.
Now, I'm sorry, Scotty had a very good year, by the way. Yeah. What people forget is Brownlow medalists aren't necessarily great players. There are some great Brownlow, some unbelievably great players, but then there's some other Brownlow medalists that just had a really good year. So just because you've won a Brownlow doesn't automatically make you a great player. It means you had a great year. But for me, what it's worth, I think Butters from Port
Zach
Adelaide.
Butters,
yeah,
left field. Okay. Yep. I mean, he is in the top 5 or 6 in betting, I would suppose. So that's interesting. So you think he's played enough? I mean, his best games have been very good, and he did have a period when Port were winning where he was nearly best on ground.
Yeah,
in a lot of weeks.
Well, they won 12 in a row or 13 in a row, and I reckon he polls in a lot of those.
Separately, footy topic. I've watched with interest. I haven't viewed it myself. I've seen the preview, but you've watched it, I believe. Danielle Laidley. So
2 tribes.
What did you make of it? Former teammate.
I fascinating watching. I really enjoyed it. Sat there and watched it with a mate actually, and we're obviously going to have a chat to Danielle on The Truth Hurts, so I'm looking forward to that. That's coming up very, very soon, and it in some ways you watch it and you feel really happy, and then at other times you feel really sad because the burden that she carried for so long and then not able to be herself for so long. And, I guess, living with that secret must have been, terribly sad at different times. So, like I said, you go through a lot of different emotions when you sit there and watch, and clearly as a teammate, having no idea what she was going through was, it's in some ways very sad.
I look forward to that chat you're going to have, and I guess it interests me because Danielle, as Dean at the time, enjoyed some great success at North Melbourne and had a great career. And I guess if she lived in the time now, that may not have happened because she might have made the transition earlier. I'd be interested in her thoughts about how it's played out and you know, what regrets or...
It'll be a really good... We'll have a really good chat. And, like I said, really looking forward to doing that. And for anyone that wants to watch, it's on Stan.
Okay, good stuff. I'm not a huge rugby union man, but I have watched with interest this unfold in the last week, particularly after the Wallabies lost this morning. They lost to Wales 40-6. They're out of the World Cup, I believe. Eddie Jones came back as this saviour, and he'd already copped a whole lot of flack for when he left for England initially to coach, and the whole trader thing and all that sort of stuff. He's come back as going to be Australian rugby's saviour. He's given a lot to all these journos along the way, and then this report came out the day before the game that he had an interview with Japan about taking up their coaching role after the World Cup, even though he had a 5-year contract with the Wallabies. Now, he refused to talk about it after the game. I wonder if that had any impact on the result. Does that stuff filter in to the dressing room?
It just depends on the strength of the playing group, and mainly the leaders. I mean, it is a clearly it's very different to AFL and the circumstances. It's a world game, and I get it may do because of. So does it affect some relationships? Maybe it does, but I don't think that's the reason why they got beat, by the way.
No, probably they're just no good. Is that what you...
Well, they're not, they're just not where they would want to be. And talking about Union, but what about League? Broncos and the Panthers through to the grand final. Been a remarkable turnaround by the Broncos to get where they've got. Young team, exciting against last year's premiers. It's going to be a massive game, this one. I'm really looking forward to the rugby. I know you don't follow it, but
I follow Rugby League, yeah.
Do you?
I at least call it league rather than rugby. Like you just...
Well, I've always called it rugby, but then people pull me out.
Oh, I have a bit of a financial interest in who wins the grand final, so that I'll be watching. That's for sure.
Why? Who have you?
Well,
$4 on?
When Better made that scheme at the start of the year where they offered 100 to 1 for whoever wins, 100 to 1 odds for winning the grand final. I put my $10 on Penrith, so that's my interest in the.
So you got $10 at 100 to 1.
Yeah, so $1,000.
Right.
So that's my hope for this week.
Oh well, good luck.
Yeah,
I hope Penrith wins for you.
I do like the Broncos though. I think I agree. Should be a good game. Disappointing end for the Storm. That would be the only thing. Very unstorm-like performance from them.
Yeah, well, they keep giving themselves a chance, those Storm, don't they?
They do.
Had injuries and an unbelievable footy club, Melbourne Storm. They just keep backing up year after year after year after year. They lose players and they just keep producing players.
I tell you what, it's hard when you talk about NRL Grand Final, AFL Grand Final, Brownlow, all this stuff coming up. It's a hard time of the year to have a break from the social activities. I went up to the Gold Coast and hosted a function for a mate's footy club, Bond University, on Friday night. Then on Saturday we had a few beverages. At least kept it off. I was free yesterday, but I think I need a break. But then you think, well, I'm going to have a drink for the Brownlow tonight. You can't not sit back and have a beverage tonight. Then I got footy club function Friday, grand final Saturday, NRL grand final.
Yeah, it's hard. You've got all these different events on. So I've going to a Brownlow function tonight.
Yep.
Tuesday off. I've got another function Wednesday. I've got a luncheon Thursday. And then I'm in Brisbane Friday. And then
just for the day.
Just for the day, and then back. There's lots going on. It is hard. You just got to be disciplined.
So you would have worked the last however many grand finals. So when was the last time you had a grand final where you weren't?
Last year I didn't go.
Oh, of course you did.
Yeah, and the 2 before that I didn't go because of COVID. So I haven't
Silly
actually
question.
been,
Silly
haven't
question.
been to
Sorry.
a few grand finals. But I, you know what? I actually got, for the first time in a long time, I got really excited on the weekend waiting for the game.
Yep.
Like I couldn't wait to watch Friday night, and then I got caught up in the emotion of it, and then felt really bad for GWS. And then come Saturday after coming back from the farm and the animals, I 5 o'clock or whatever, 5:15 or whatever it was, couldn't have come around quick enough. I just was really excited to sit back with mates, have a couple of coldies, and just watch the footy. And it'll be the same this week.
When you have these functions that you go to, is there an expectation that you hang around and have a few beverages after? Is that or?
Oh, some things, not so much grand final week, because there's
just so many.
There's just so many, and there's so many other people there as well.
Mm.
It's a little bit hard to stick around too long, but generally, if you go to a different event, you want to stick around and say g'day to the people. Not you don't duck in the back door and duck out the side one. That's what you would do.
I'm sure some people do.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on now to our viewer questions, and I've got these our listener questions even. I've started with a big one, and you did even for another time today admit you'd been wrong about something. This is from Aaron. I'm starting to worry about Duck making these apologies for being wrong, and starting to think this could be called Duck's Confession, like a place to go and soothe your soul.
Oh boy. How long have you got?
Maybe that's our breakout. Duck's Confessions. It could be our longest episode, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
No
That
comment.
is called The Truth Hurt.
No comment. You made some comments last week about Ron Barassi in the Cup, or it was the week before actually, and then it was picked up by others last week. Seems like the AFL's maybe going to, they're perhaps thinking the Cup is sacrosanct.
Yep.
But there's a few responses. Vernon, when Barassi took over at Carlton, they finished 10th in a 12-team comp the year before, and North Melbourne were wooden spooners before his arrival. If Shane Warne had the whole Southern Stand renamed in his honour, then Ron is at least worthy of having the Cup named after him. I guess the only question mark will be like a Warney versus a Ron. The AFL is now a national competition. That's been some of the commentary I've seen. Are we being too Vic-centric in trying to name the Cup after Ron at this stage, or?
Well, clearly the interstate teams haven't been around as long. It's what he contributed to the game and how long he's, been involved in the game. It's got nothing to do with the fact that he's Victorian or not. It's his standing.
Yep.
Don't turn it into a Vic v, WA or SA.
So this is from Peter. Agree, Duck, got to be the Ron Barassi Cup. 10 premierships. His name is already on it. Great call. Then from Victor. Now Victor has had a few comments about you here, and he's had another go, and I think he's been justified, to be honest. R.I.P. Ron Barassi, but the Premiership Cup should not be named after him. Leave it alone. Stop trying to change everything. As a side note, once again, Duck showing his hatred for Collingwood. It's going to be a Collingwood v Brisbane grand final, and Collingwood will win it in a close, epic grand final.
Who said that?
Victor. Because I think he's been a bit dirty on you and Brody Mychek as well.
Yeah, well, Victor will might be right, because let's be honest, I got it. I tipped last week. I was a point out, by the way, like 1 point, but they're there. They give themselves a chance. I'm tipping Brisbane, Victor. But I don't have a hatred for Collingwood.
Mr. Anderson, I only think it should be the Wayne Carey Cup. I know Ron is a legend, but the Duck was the greatest of all time, and it's not even close. What do you reckon?
Yeah, good point. No.
Right. There was a few guys who I just want to highlight last week who got their tips right. Loving the pod, gents. Pies will get up over GWS 1-39 for some good coin. So that now seems very prophetic. This is from Tim, by the way. And honestly, I think the Lions will be too good for the Blues. Duck, Ari, Harry, Mackay. Really, Duck, a couple of shocking calls this week, mate. One, Harry is better in the team than out. Charlie performed well solo, but needs Harry alongside him. Did you think it? I thought Harry made a little bit of a difference. I know we touched on it earlier, but
yeah, well, he kicked. What did he kick?
I don't know.
He kicked
He
one,
took a few grabs.
Yeah. No, I thought he was okay.
Well, longer term then for Carlton. Okay, so we're going to this off-season. This is the question I've got for you then. Because although Harry has not been at his best, he does have currency. Do the Blues stick fat and say, we're backing you, Harry, you're part of our structure? Because if they get rid of him, they're going to need another
They're not
forward.
going to get rid of Harry Mackay. Who suggested?
Well, that was the question 6 weeks ago, wasn't it? By a few commentators.
No. You wouldn't. You're keeping Harry, but like I said, Harry just needs to. He lacked confidence when he came back, and that's why he wasn't at his best. He'll have a good pre-season. He'll come back, and they'll be a great duo next year.
So that was from Aussie in Texas, and this is from Scott. He's saying injuries are no excuse even in finals. I've said this elsewhere. I think if you cross the white line, then you're fit to play. This is in regards to Port and Melbourne. To say Port and Melbourne had injuries is an excuse, in my opinion. Port went early on Hinkley. I think if you look at his record over 10 years, they've made up the numbers. Melbourne, you mentioned Bren Brown, 100% should have played. Are injuries an excuse? Are they?
They're a reason.
They're a reason. Okay.
Yeah. And the fittest teams generally win the premiership. Now, that's why GWS really have no excuse for, in terms of their fitness. You talked about a day break, but no, they went in a very healthy team, GWS. And, you look at Collingwood, if Adams gets up, then they go in pretty, they go in pretty much full strength. McStay, obviously very unlucky. So, yeah, a bit of bad luck. But then Brisbane lost Payne last week. It'd be interesting to see whether he gets up for the grand final.
Ducks clothing. I've labelled the next one just so I could really find this amongst the comments. This was from Craig. The Duck, a smart-looking band, but next time iron the shirt, please. Love the show. Keep up the good work. So you might need to go back and look at last week's episode to see what you're wearing and maybe assess.
Can't remember.
No. So that I was a bit surprised by that because normally you are very sharp. But
yeah, well, I think it's the shirt that I had on for memory. I think that's the style.
Oh, that's one of the
wrinkly.
linen numbers.
Bit of a wrinkly.
Bit trendy for you, isn't it?
Hey? Yeah.
The linen shirt.
I wouldn't be talking about fashion if I was you.
So I've just got about 10 of these shirts, just different colours. Now, final question, this is from Nick. Duck, I see Mitch Cleary is replacing Tom Brown as chief football reporter at Channel 7, where you worked. Any thoughts on that? I see Tommy endorsed it, which was very good.
Did
good.
he?
Yeah.
Oh, sad day, Tommy. Tommy's entertaining, I think. So Mitch is very good at what he does. But Tommy's one of those guys you just look at and laugh sometimes. He's just got one of those demeanors. He's very different. I saw him. You know both. You worked with both.
Mitch is I do. Yeah, Mitch is a very good operator. I think he does a very good job and will step into those shoes well. I saw Tom on the weekend, actually. It was on the Fox coverage, not the 7 coverage, but he was working for 7 in the rooms. And as the players were walking in, he was in the background giving this big fist bump as the players.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, I know you're a Pie supporter, Tommy, but just keep it.
What about BT doing roaming Brian? He didn't know who Wade he was.
Oh, Matty Wade. They were Steele, as he said, Steele Sidebottom. Was that your cousin, was it? Or your brother? Is that your brother? He said Matty Wade, the cricketer. Did you text him? Did you text BT?
No, I haven't.
You're too scared. He wouldn't like it?
He would have got a bit of feedback.
I would have thought he would have gone over then to Matty Wade and asked him a question. So he's connected to Jeremy Howe. They're cousins or something. Yeah. So, no, that was very funny. I didn't give a Norm Smith tip. I was thinking along the DeGoey lines, but it's too obvious. So I'm going to go with Scotty Pendlebury to go with my Collingwood tip because I think he performs well on the big stage. I'm going to say for Scott, it's going to be 26 touches, 1 goal for Scott, and he's going to win the Norm.
I'm gonna Charlie Cameron.
Norm
Smith. He's going to kick 4.
Wow, 4 goals.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that's why I think Brisbane and Joey will kick 2, McCarthy 3, Hipwood 1.
It's really specific. This is good. I might have to multi this up. That can be a multi for this weekend.
And he'll kick 4 and win it. Replicate what Cyril did.
Kick 4. That was it. Cyril in that first quarter that year was unbelievable. That was huge. Duck, great to see you again. Big game coming up this weekend, which we'll dissect next week. But thanks for your time. See you soon.
You can either take the red pill, you'll wake up, everything was a dream, or you can take the black pill, you can get torched,
Well, I suppose getting torched won't hurt that much. I don't feel anything.
Wait for it.
Oh, wait. I just got a new client.
Get torched! Get torched! Get torched!